Picture this. It's 1990. Your parents buy a house for $80,000. Cozy and in a beautiful neighborhood. Gas is $1 a gallon. Your daily commute doesn't eat up all your paycheck. You can attend your local university for $5,000 a year. You graduate with a degree. You find a job. You get married. And the future looks promising. Now fast forward to today. That same house is $500,000 or even more in a shittier neighborhood. Gas prices hover around $4 a gallon. College is unthinkable, and if you dare to get a college degree, you need to shackle yourself with soul-sucking debt forever. You work harder than ever, perhaps more than one job, with longer hours, yet you can't afford anything because, obviously, you buy way too many Starbucks.
Seriously?
Your savings can hardly cover an emergency. Everything is more expensive and out of reach. Yet, the government promises you that everything is under control, especially inflation. What is going on? Are you just lazy? Or is there something wrong with the system? You know something's off about this whole situation, yet you can't put your finger on it. Your situation is messed up because of a hidden tax. Inflation. A slow theft of your present, future, as well as the future of your children and grandchildren, if you manage to have any. The question that begs itself now, is there a way out? In this video, I'm going to demystify inflation, show you how the government is lying about it, and the only escape out of this mess. The government and central banks assure you that inflation is under control. It's just 2%, right? Of course not. But even if it was, have you ever asked yourself why 2%? What makes 2% a good number? Why not 4% or 1%? And how can it be 2% when your grocery bill increased by more than 2%? Your rent increased by more than 2%, and nobody can afford a house anymore because housing prices increase by way more than 2%. The official story that inflation is under control and that 2% inflation is good for the economy must be wrong, because none of this makes any sense. Some people think inflation is just prices going up because business owners and entrepreneurs are greedy bastards. They just wake up one day and decide to raise their prices. But that's not it, because inflation is the result of the actions of central banks in the form of money printing and the expansion of the money supply. No need to go into the details of how that happens through the artificial lowering of interest rates and so on. Let's just say that central banks print money out of thin air and flood the economy with it to stimulate it. More money to spend means more money is going to compete over the same supply of goods and services, and naturally, prices will go up. Imagine you have an economy made from 5 apples and 5 coins. In this economy, each apple will cost 1 coin because the money supply always adapts to the economy. Now, if we add 5 more coins to the economy, we'll end up with 5 apples and 10 coins. Now, how much do you think 1 apple costs in this economy? That's right, 2 coins. However, there is something more sinister about inflation, because it doesn't affect us all equally. In a complex economy, some people benefit from it, but the vast majority do not. Imagine you have a large dry garden, and you have one water source in the form of a hose. Some plants are close to the hose, others are far away. You turn the water on, and instead of distributing the water evenly, you only water the plants near you. The plants near the water source will grow faster and healthier, whereas those farther away won't get as much water and they will struggle to survive. Now think of money as the water and the newly created money as the flow from the hose. When central banks print new money, it doesn't enter the economy evenly. The institutions and individuals closest to the source, think of government contractors, banks, large corporations, they benefit first because they get the money first and they go and buy up all the valuable assets before prices go up. Now, by the time the money spreads to the rest of society, to workers, small business owners, savers, prices have already gone up and the money has already lost its purchasing power. This is called the Cantillon effect. The first people who get the newly created money get richer, while the rest of us get the short end of the stick. The government together with the central bank love inflation. This whole debt-based financial system will collapse without it. That's why they keep printing money. I, on the other hand, love magic. Now, magic is based on deception and misdirection, just like mainstream economics, except that magic uses those things for the good, entertainment, and mainstream economics use it for the bad, theft, also known as inflation. One of those tricky things that hide the real rate of inflation is CPI. CPI stands for Consumer Price Index, basically a basket that contains essential goods and services that economists use to measure inflation, like housing, food, healthcare, transportation, education, etc. The way they play tricks with it is different. If beef gets expensive, they assume you're gonna switch to chicken, and therefore there is no inflation. This trick is called the substitution effect. If your new iPhone is better, they count that as a price drop, even if it costs more. This trick is called the Hedonic adjustment. When it comes to housing, instead of tracking real prices, they ask homeowners what they think their house could rent for. This trick is called OER, Owner's Equivalent Rent. In other words, the 2% inflation rate is bullshit, because the way with which they calculate inflation is also bullshit. To figure out the real rate of inflation, we have to base it on the real definition of inflation, the expansion of the money supply. This chart has the amount of money printed from 1960 to 2024. As you can see, it's on the rise as the years go by. If we calculate the average annual increase of the money supply based on these numbers from the Fed, the average annual inflation is not 2%, but 7%. So while your paycheck stays the same, or if it goes up, it doesn't go up by much, everything else gets more expensive, and you feel like you are being squeezed out. Inflation robs your money of its purchasing power. It erodes 7% of the value from your savings, year after year. It stagnates wages, and it leaves you poorer over time. They say history repeats itself. In the Roman Empire, they started adding cheap metals to gold coins to debase them. In Weimar Germany, they printed atrocious amounts of money and made it worthless. Similar thing happened in Venezuela, and the list goes on. Heck, just in 2020, trillions of dollars were printed out of thin air, which contributed to skyrocketing inflation. And we've been paying the price since then. What's the escape plan? Bitcoin is the escape plan. It's the antidote. It's the only solution. Bitcoin is money that can't be printed. Bitcoin is money with a fixed supply of 21 million forever. Bitcoin is money that no government could manipulate. On a Bitcoin standard, there would be no bailouts, no money printing, no inflation, no thefts, no wars, no political corruption. Bitcoin is hope because it gives you the ability to opt out of a rigged system designed to make you poor and powerless. Central banks won't stop printing money. Money printing will always make you poor. You have two choices. Either stay poor in this corrupt, inflationary financial system, or embrace Bitcoin. Become immune to inflation. Protect your wealth, study Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin.